So here's a foreclosure question most people never think to ask. If a lender wants to take your house, why does that process sometimes involve a judge, a courtroom, or a full lawsuit? And at other times, it involves no judge whatsoever, no courtroom, no referee at all. Same debt, same default, two completely different processes. Another day, another solution. Let's talk dirt. Before we get into Texas specifically, let's define our terms. What is a judicial foreclosure? It's a foreclosure that happens through a lawsuit or inside a lawsuit. The lender sues you, a judge reviews the case, and only a judge can sign off on the sale moving forward. Think of it like a game with the referee standing right there, watching every play, blowing the whistle if something's out of bounds. That referee is a real person, a judge in a courtroom with the power to stop things cold. So, what does that mean for you? More paperwork, more time, more chances to be heard before anything is decided. And there's a real reason for that referee to be there. The lawsuit lets a judge check whether the lender actually has a right to foreclose, whether the paperwork is clean, and whether you were given everything the law requires. Nothing moves forward until someone with authority signs off on all of it. Now let's move to non-judicial foreclosure. That means no lawsuit, no judge, no referee standing on the field. Does that sound familiar? It should, because here's the thing. There is still a referee. It's just that you hired that referee yourself back when you closed on your loan. It's called the deed of trust. Buried inside that document is something called a power of sale clause. That clause names a trustee, and it gives that trustee the authority to sell your property if you default without ever going to court. Let me say that again. You didn't skip the referee, you signed the referee into the contract before the game even started. Texas is a non-judicial foreclosure state. Now let's get to Texas law specifically. If you're watching from another state, your rules may be very different. Make sure you check with your local attorney. As I stated previously, Texas is what's called a non-judicial foreclosure state. Here's the thing. Almost every deed of trust in Texas includes that power of sale clause. Now that means that in most cases, the lender doesn't need a judge's permission at all to foreclose. Now don't let most cases slide by. Texas leans non-judicial. That doesn't mean that every foreclosure in Texas skips the courtroom. More on that in a minute. But remember what we said in episode 1. Equity of redemption still applies. The borrower still needs a real, meaningful opportunity to catch up before losing their property. So Texas doesn't skip that protection. It just delivers it in a different way through strict notice requirements written into the property code instead of through a courtroom. And here's where it gets interesting. Because there's no lawsuit, no discovery, and no trial, Texas non-judicial foreclosures can move really fast. We're talking weeks, not years. Let's put real numbers on it. Industry data has tracked Texas foreclosures completing in around 90 to 100 days, start to finish. Think about that for a second. Judicial foreclosure in states that require it can take many months, sometimes over a year, depending on the court's docket. Some judicial states have averaged well over 1,000 days, nearly 3 years, for a single foreclosure to work its way through court. Texas, non-judicial, can go from a missed payment to sold at auction in a matter of weeks, once the process actually starts. Same failure to pay, completely different timeline. Now, neither system is just better. Each one is trading something for something else. Judicial foreclosure means more court oversight, more chances to be heard, more time to fight back. But that protection has a cost. Non-judicial foreclosure means less court involvement, less time to contest, but a market that clears faster. Here's where it gets interesting. Look at the mortgage crisis around 2008 through 2010. Texas, non-judicial, kept moving through its backlog. Foreclosures here were completed in a matter of months. Florida, which is a judicial foreclosure state, told a different story. Cases piled up in the hundreds of thousands. Some of those delays were legitimate defenses, real fraud, real paperwork problems. but many were something else. Homeowners staying in properties for months, sometimes years, without making a payment while the case just sat on a crowded court docket. Think about that for a second. Texas homes moved back onto the market, new buyers stepped in, prices found their floors faster. Florida's backlog kept distressed homes in limbo, hurting the very recovery everyone was waiting for. Here's why that matters beyond one crisis. Real estate economists have pointed to that backlog as a real drag on judicial states' recovery. Because buyers hesitate when market might get flooded with cheap, distressed homes later. Uncertainty like that doesn't just hurt sellers. It slows down everyone trying to buy, sell, or lend in that market. So here's the trade-off, plain and simple. More court protection can mean more fairness for one homeowner, but it can also mean a slower recovery for the market as a whole. Texas chose speed, and in that crisis, it's a big part of why Texas weathered it better than most. Hey, real quick, if this is helping you make sense of Texas foreclosures, go ahead and hit like and subscribe right now. We're building this whole library so you never have to guess at how this process actually works. You'll want to see what's coming next. Now back to the topic. We said Texas leans non-judicial. Here's where it doesn't. Home equity loans, home equity lines of credit, reverse mortgages. Why does that matter? Because these loans are secured by your Texas homestead and they have added protections due to predatory lending laws. For these specific loans, the lender can't just rely on the deed of trust alone. They need a court order first through either a full judicial foreclosure or a faster court process built just for this purpose. Here's the part people miss. Once that court order is granted, the actual sale will still happen the non-judicial way like normal loans. Posted, filed, and sold like any other Texas foreclosure. So the referee in a way comes back, but only to open the gate. He's not here to officiate the entire game. And homestead loans aren't the only example. HOA assessment liens can require it too. One more thing. Even on an ordinary mortgage, a lender can still choose to go through the court instead. Non-judicial is the default, not the only door. So when someone yells, Texas is a non-judicial state, that's the general rule, not the entire picture. In the next episode, we're going to zoom all the way out. We're going to give you a broad overview of how Texas frames the entire foreclosure process, start to finish, from default all the way to the trustee deed at the end of the process. If this video was informative, please make sure to like and subscribe below. I always like to remind viewers that these videos are not meant as legal advice. If you need help with a matter, contact us at the links below. As always, thanks for watching.